Title: They need the new girl in the face, big mistake. They had no clue who she really was. Scene 1. The cafeteria incident. The lunchtime chaos filled the high school cafeteria, laughter, chatter, and the clatter of trays. Lila, the new girl, walked in quietly, holding her lunch like a shield. Her long braid brushed against her shoulder as she searched for a seat, but every table seemed claimed by loud groups who glanced at her, whispered, and turned away. She finally sat alone in the corner, opening her water bottle and trying to disappear into the noise. But trouble had already noticed her. Across the room, Brooke and her friends, the queen bees of Ridgeview High, were watching. "Look who thinks she's too good to say hi," Brooke sneered. Her sidekick, Amber, smirked. "Let's give the new girl a proper welcome." They strutted toward Lila's table, laughter sharp as knives. "Hey, new girl," Brooke said, leaning in close. "Where you from, the farm?" Lila looked up, her calm eyes steady. "Just moved here. I don't want any trouble." Brooke grabbed Lila's tray, tilting it. Soup spilled across the table, splashing onto Lila's sweater. The cafeteria gasped. Lila stood slowly. "Please stop." Amber laughed, then suddenly, in one swift, cruel motion, kneed Lila in the face. The room fell silent. Trays clattered, and Lila stumbled back, hand on her cheek. For a heartbeat, it seemed like she'd cry. But then, she straightened. Her eyes changed. Cold. Focused. Not like any scared teenager. Without a word, she caught Brooke's wrist mid-swing, and twisted. Brooke gasped in pain. In a blur, Amber's arm was pinned, her knee swept out from under her. Both bullies hit the floor, stunned and breathless. The cafeteria erupted, some cheering, others frozen in shock. Lila stepped back, breathing evenly, as two teachers rushed in. "Principal's office. Now," one shouted. Lila didn't argue. She just picked up her bag and walked calmly out, leaving the room buzzing with whispers. Scene 2. The truth revealed. That afternoon, Principal Hayes sat behind his desk, looking at the security footage on his monitor, and rubbing his temples. Across from him sat a silent Lila, eyes downcast. The door opened, and two men in dark suits walked in. Everyone turned. The air changed. "Special Agent Lila Khan," the older man said, flashing an ID. "Undercover student from the Juvenile Protection Unit. You can stop pretending now." Brooke and Amber, sitting in the corner with ice packs and bruised pride, looked up in shock. "Undercover?" Brooke stammered. "You're, what?" Lila finally met their eyes. "You hurt people for fun," she said quietly. "I was here because of students like you. This school's been under investigation for months, bullying reports, violence, cover-ups. I was sent to collect evidence." Brooke's face drained of color. The agents handed Principal Hayes a file, thick with reports. The silence in the principal's office was so heavy it felt like the air itself had weight. Principal Hayes sat stiffly behind his desk, his fingers pressed together, eyes flicking between the computer screen and the girl sitting across from him. The security footage played on loop. The cafeteria, the crowd, the moment when Lila moved like lightning and the two bullies hit the floor. Every time it replayed, his frown deepened. Lila sat perfectly still in the chair opposite him, hands folded neatly in her lap. A thin bruise was beginning to form on her cheek, but she didn't touch it, didn't flinch. She looked calm, too calm, given the chaos from earlier. Her eyes, quiet and unreadable, fixed on a spot on the floor. A knock came at the door. Principal Hayes looked up, relief crossing his face. "Come in." Two men entered. They weren't teachers, that much was obvious. Both wore dark suits, polished shoes, and the kind of expression that said they didn't waste time. The taller one, with graying hair at his temples, stepped forward and flashed a badge so quickly it barely caught the light. "Agent Monroe, Juvenile Protection Unit. This is Agent Carter." Principal Hayes blinked. "Protection Unit. What's going on here?" The older man's gaze shifted toward Lila. His tone softened. "You can stand down now, Agent Khan." The sound of her name, not Lila, not Miss Khan, but Agent, sliced through the room like a blade. Brooke and Amber, sitting on the sofa with ice packs pressed to their faces, looked up in confusion. Lila exhaled slowly, like someone dropping a mask they'd worn too long. "Yes, sir." Principal Hayes leaned back in his chair, disbelief twisting his voice. "Wait a minute, Agent Khan. Are you telling me this girl is Undercover, Monroe confirmed. She's been operating at Ridgeview High for the last 2 weeks. We've been investigating a string of bullying and assault reports that were either ignored or quietly erased from the system. Your school has been on our watch list since last semester. Amber froze, the color draining from her face. You're lying, she whispered. She's just some transfer kid. Lila turned her gaze on her, cool and sharp. You think a transfer student moves 5 times in 1 year? Amber's mouth opened, then closed again. She had no answer. Agent Carter moved around the office, setting down a thick file on the desk with a heavy thud. We have enough documented evidence to charge 3 students and open an inquiry into the administration's negligence. That video from today just confirmed everything. Principal Hayes reached for the folder, his hands trembling slightly. He flipped through the pages, photos of bruised students, testimonies, screenshots of threatening messages. Each one was worse than the last. I had no idea it was this serious, he murmured. Lila looked up, her calm voice cutting through the tension. You knew something was wrong, sir. You just didn't want to see it. Her words weren't cruel, they were quiet, but they carried weight. Hayes swallowed hard, guilt settling in his expression. Brooke shifted uncomfortably. We didn't know who you were, she said, her tone defensive but shaky. We were just joking around. You made it sound like we're criminals or something. Lila's gaze didn't waver. You need a girl in the face because you thought she wouldn't fight back. You recorded people crying, spread videos online, and ruined lives for fun. She leaned forward slightly. You didn't know who I was, and that's your excuse. But what about the others, the ones who weren't agents? What was their excuse? Brooke's lips trembled, but she said nothing. Agent Monroe cleared his throat, taking control of the room again. Miss Brooke, Miss Amber, you'll both be escorted home by your parents. There'll be hearings, and depending on what we find, possible charges for assault and harassment. I suggest you cooperate. The 2 girls looked pale, fear flickering behind their eyes. Principal Hayes stood up, trying to regain some authority. Agent Monroe, I should have been informed about this investigation. You weren't, sir, Monroe replied evenly, because we suspected the administration might be involved in suppressing complaints. And we were right, several reports were signed off by someone in this office. We'll find out who. Hayes's face flushed. Are you implying We're not implying anything yet, Monroe interrupted. Or stating facts. For a moment, the room was dead silent again. The hum of the ceiling fan was the only sound. Then Monroe turned back to Lila. You handled yourself well today, Agent. Though next time, try to avoid confrontation if possible. Lila gave a small nod. I didn't start it, sir. I know, Monroe said, a faint smile ghosting across his face. But the cafeteria footage is enough. You've done more than we asked. Lila looked at the 2 girls once more. Brooke's bravado was gone, replaced by tears she tried to hide. Amber's eyes were red, her shoulders shaking slightly. For the first time, Lila's expression softened, not with pity, but something more complicated. It's not too late for you, she said quietly. People can change. But it starts with admitting what you've done. Brooke stared at her, speechless. Agent Carter stepped forward, motioning toward the door. Let's go. We're done here. As the agents and the principal discussed logistics, Lila rose from her chair. She felt the faint ache in her cheek where Amber's knee had hit her, a dull reminder of the moment everything had unraveled. But she also felt lighter, the secret she'd carried was finally out. She walked toward the window, looking out at the school courtyard where students were laughing, walking home, completely unaware of what had just happened. The sunlight was fading, stretching long shadows across the field. For the first time in weeks, she let herself smile. Agent Monroe joined her by the window. You did good work, Con. I know this wasn't easy. She nodded. It never is. But someone had to see what they were doing. No one believed the victims. Monroe's gaze softened. You remind me of why we do this job. Lila turned, giving a small, almost tired grin. Because someone has to stand up to bullies. He chuckled. Exactly. As she gathered her things, the sound of quiet sobbing came from the couch behind her. Brooke had buried her face in her hands. Lila hesitated for a second, then walked over and set a tissue box on the table beside her. You don't have to stay this person, she said gently. The moment you stop hurting people, you start healing yourself. Then she turned and left the room. In the hallway, the late afternoon light spilled across the lockers, painting the walls gold. Students glanced at her, whispering, pointing, the new girl who'd just taken down the queen bees. But Lila didn't care. Her mission was over. She stepped outside, the cool breeze brushing her face. Somewhere behind her, a door closed, the sound of justice catching up at last. As she walked toward the black SUV waiting by